a state of disaster has been declared in KwaZulu-Natal following the deadly floods. This is to unlock funds to assist devastated communities in the province. 341 people have died. More than 40,000 people have been affected by these floods and some 248 schools damaged. Joining me now is the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, who is going to talk to us about what can be done to assist with the situation in KZN. Minister, good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time. So as the full extent of this damage continues to be counted, continues to be revealed, can I start with the question whether there are funds that already exist as in emergency funds that stand ready to be disbursed when a disaster like this happens, or will you have to rob Peter to pay Paul, basically meaning that will you have to reprioritize funding the current budget in order to meet the needs of KZN?
So, thanks, Xoli. There are two phases in a disaster. The first one is what we call emergency relief. And that is going to do two things. The first thing that it does is to intervene on an urgent basis. For instance, if you need to relocate people and provide temporary houses, that is what's called the emergency phase. And then there's a second component in that emergency phase, is that the resources are going to be utilized for what I've said earlier, and secondly, to get professionals to make an assessment of the damage and its cost. That's the first phase. The second phase is going to be what we call a recovery and repair. Now, I think at this stage where we are still at an emergency relief stage. Budget, every year we make a budget for contingency like that. It sits in a couple of departments, and that amount is available, can flow in even Monday.
Oh, all right. So how much are we talking there, Minister?
That emergency phase is largely about R1 billion.
All right. The damage is already being estimated to go into the billions, Minister. The Premier of KZN was actually talking about exactly this issue. And can I ask, what kinds of discussions are you having right now with the provincial structure in KZN?
I've had an interaction yesterday morning with Premier Zikalala about this matter, and I impressed upon him the need for speed and to deal with this matter. And what is happening, the National Department of Cooperative Governance, which is the home of disaster management, is working on this matter, and I've been told they're doing a 24-hour work in order to do two things. First is what I've said is the relief stage, and secondly is going to be the recovery and repair.
Yeah. It's a major setback, Minister Godongwana, for the economy of KZN. That province is still recovering from the COVID pandemic, as with the rest of the country, but in particular, it is also recovering from the July unrest. Do you think that KZN can avoid sliding into economic depression?
No, you must understand some of these things impact on the national economy. Let me just, for instance, one of the roads which has been damaged now is the one that provides access to the port. Now, it's not only access to the port for KZN trucks, it's for trucks across the country, and that is likely to have an impact on the economy as a whole. So it's a disaster which is serious.
And again, I'm going to use those words. because I want you to perhaps try and provide some kind of comfort to say KZN will not go into an economic depression, or perhaps some will even suggest that it is in depression. What we ought to fight against is the province sliding into deeper economic depression.
My sense is the following, Xoli, is if we move with speed over the next few weeks in dealing with the two things I've mentioned, first the emergency relief and secondly the assessing the damage, we can move with speed to the second phase of recovery and repair. As we move to that second phase of recovery and repair, which will be a fortunate thing because the amount of construction work that's going to take place there is likely to put a number of people into employment.
Let's talk about the organizations that are already apprehensive, Minister. It's not just organizations, also individuals in the country. They are apprehensive about the possible mass looting of these emergency funds that are going to start flowing into KZN. The Kathrada Foundation, for example, they're very clear that, quote unquote, do not steal. So the question to you is, what safeguards will you mount in order to avoid the brazen looting of these funds?
I think everybody is worried about that possibility. The experience of past disasters is a test we can use and come to the conclusion that there will be, even in this case, vultures waiting out there to pound on the money that's going to come down. There's no doubt about that. Last night, the president said to me, he's as worried as you are. He said three things. The first one is that we must move with speed. The second one is that we must avoid, as much as we can close totally the loopholes, the corruption system. The third thing to give effect to those two is that we must centralize the management of this disaster during this time. In that sense, if my understanding properly, is that we'll probably appoint an independent agency to deliver.
Yeah, Minister,
as part of trying to put a firewall against to avoid any looting.
Yeah. Minister Godongwana, let's wrap it up with you. There is a fear, or perhaps let me put it this way, against the backdrop of corruption, against the background of mistrust, against the backdrop of the government failing to plan for disasters such as this one, there are fears from big business that this country is slowly sliding into what some people have already suggested, that it is a failed state. But I don't want to be the one saying that, Minister. I'd like you to listen to the president of big business, that's a Business Unity South Africa, Bonang Mohale, who we spoke to earlier in the week. Let's have a listen.
South Africa is now teetering on the brink of being a failed state. You see countries like farms, like airlines, take a long time to die. In 28 years, we accelerated our growth and fixed the problems of apartheid. Now we have gone back in reverse gear to a worse state than we were. In fact, we have taken this economy back 20 years.
My simple question to you, Minister Godongwana, do you think this administration can use the KZN floods disaster to regain public trust?
I'm quite confident, Xoli, the procedures and system we're putting in place will achieve the objectives which the President outlined to me last night. First, we'll fast-track the recovery. Secondly, we are going to firewall this thing and most of the funds against corruption, and we are putting and centralizing the delivery to ensure that we can be effective, monitor corruption. So I'm quite confident we're going to demonstrate to South Africans this time that we can do things different.
That's the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana.